And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Thank you for joining us for the marine portion of your broadcast. First, we're going to take a look at your sea ice along the North Arctic coast. As you can see, we still have a little bit of sea ice hanging on outside of Nome. We also have continued to see some erosion of the sea ice in the Chukchi Sea, and even a little bit of open water north of Ukqiavik. So we're definitely seeing the summer erosion of the sea ice. 5 days from now, we're expected that to continue to erode. It looks like Nome will have ice-free waters 5 days from now, and a little more erosion north of Ukqiavik. Looking at your marine forecast for the Panhandle area, we are seeing small craft advisory conditions, 25 knots along the Gulf Coast, especially near Yakutat, with waves of 5 to 6 feet. In interior Panhandle areas, we are seeing waves up to 3 feet and winds up to 20 knots near Ketchikan. And again, a good reminder that in some of these channel areas, waves and winds can be a little stronger, so travel with caution. By Friday, we're looking at less windy conditions. We're seeing that the winds are going to be about 10 knots. Waves are going to be about 2 feet. And along the coast, we're looking at winds of about 15 knots and waves 5 to 6 feet. Let's take a look at your North Gulf Coast. As you can see, Prince William Sound for Thursday, winds 15 knots, waves up to 3 feet. Outside those sheltered waters, you can expect waves up to about 5 feet and winds of about 10 knots. And as we go into Cook Inlet, a little windier and a little wavier than is typical. So watch out for 5 feet even north of Homer and 20 knot winds, And even just outside of the Kenai, we're looking at waves still about 4 feet. So travel with caution on your Thursday. Friday, winds will be a little calmer. Looking at waves at about 2 to 3 feet in the inlet, and we're looking at winds of about 10 knots. Similar conditions, about 10 knots in Prince William Sound, waves about 2 feet. And as you go outside of sheltered waters, waves about 3 to 4 feet. As we've head westward, you can see we're looking at waves about 2 feet in Bristol Bay, and near False Pass, waves of about 4 feet. South of the Alaska Peninsula, widespread 4-foot waves with winds of about 10 knots near Kodiak, outside of those sheltered areas. Fairly good conditions. Winds are going to intensify, though, as we have a new low pressure system off to the west of the Alaska Peninsula. So on Friday, expect windier conditions of about 20 knots across much of the area, waves about 3 feet, and near up to 4 feet near Kodiak Island. As we head further to our west for the Aleutian Islands on your Thursday, you can see we have about 20 to 25 knots across much of the region. Waves a little bit higher south of the Aleutian Islands. We're looking at about 7-foot waves ubiquitously across much of the area. We're a little more sheltered in the Bering Sea. We're looking at waves about up to, I guess the greatest is about 6 feet, but for the most part, waves 3 to 4 feet across the central and eastern Aleutian Islands. And as our low comes up, we start to see greater waves across the Bering Friday, so up to about 6 feet across much of the region and 5 to 6 feet south of the Aleutian Islands as well. And we're seeing widespread winds of about 25 knots. As we move northward into Bristol Bay, on Thursday, we're seeing waves of about 2 feet. As you go to the Pribilofs, waves up to about 3 feet, and winds generally around 10 knots. As we go into Friday, those winds and waves again are going to increase with that low moving closer to the area. We're going to see waves about 4 feet and winds about 20 knots. As we move close near to Hooper Bay, again, waves are going to be about 2 feet and 10 knots. For your Thursday, again, as we go close to the Bering Strait, winds are going to be channeled through, so expect waves of about 5 feet and winds about 20 to 25 knots. As you move further north, we're going to have generally weaker winds, but we're starting to see about 5-foot waves in some of these ice-free waters along the North Arctic coast. So be cautious of that if you're out in those areas. As we move into Friday, again, we're going to see some channeling near the Bering Strait, so about 4-foot waves again and 20 20 knot winds. As we move further north, again, just generally 15 knots in our ice zones.